So the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday fired Adrian Griffin, first year head coach, first time head coach. The man has a 30-13 record. They had I think it's the third best record in the entire NBA. They sit second in the East. Not playing bad. I mean, they just won 2 games in a row. They've had some defensive lapses, and they're not playing as good defensively as what they did last year, but I don't know what anybody expected. You got rid of one of the best on-ball defenders in the league in Drew Holiday, and you brought in Damian Lillard, who doesn't guard anybody. So you knew then that you were sacrificing defense for offense. You knew that. And yet, here we are, Adrian Griffin fired as Milwaukee Bucks head coach. Now, as I made a post yesterday and we reported, I mean, it looks like, and from what we saw on sidelines during some games, what it looks like is Adrian Griffin didn't get along with Giannis. That they just didn't get along. You had Bobby Portis come out, earlier in the season talking about he didn't like the defensive rotations and what was going on defensively, the defensive game plan that Bobby Portis didn't like. And I'm like, why is Bobby Portis coming out and complaining publicly about this? Why wouldn't you just go to your head coach and talk about it? But that just shows you they had no respect for the man. I mean, that's early in the season. Early in the season, you're already complaining. Now, keep in mind, this is a team and a franchise that fired their head coach that won a championship 2 years ago. They fired that guy. Not good enough. Not good enough. And supposedly, Giannis championed to get Adrian Griffin the job, over Nick Nurse, who the 76ers hired. So that supposedly is what happened. But we're talking 43 games into the season when you're 30-13 and already we're done with him. We're done with him. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me at all. I mean, I don't know what people are thinking, but that doesn't make sense to me. That's crazy talk. That's absolute crazy talk. So to sit here and try to, I don't know, dissect what's going on, it's been crazy. And yeah, somebody on TikTok's talking about LeBron got David Blatt fired. Yeah. Okay. But they won a chip with a different coach. So I don't know. I think that situation's kind of the same thing. And remember the smoke that LeBron got for that. Are we going to do the same thing to Giannis? I'm just saying, you know me, I'm about fair. Are we going to do the same thing to Giannis? Because don't tell me that Giannis didn't get this man fired. He absolutely did. He absolutely did. And when you allow superstar players to do this kind of stuff, I just don't know. I don't know. And here's the next thing. So they're talking about bringing Doc Rivers in, who I think is a bad head coach. I think Doc Rivers is living on a championship that he won over a decade ago when he had three surefire Hall of Famers on his team and one possible Hall of Famer on his team. I mean, that Celtics team was stacked. Just absolutely stacked. And yet, there he goes. And they're bringing him in. And again, Doc Rivers, Mr. I give up 3-1 leads like I change underwear. The guy is not a good basketball coach. Good man, but we're not talking about the man. We're talking about basketball coach. And he's not a good basketball coach, in my opinion. So over on YouTube, we have somebody that says, stop letting players GM. Probably in Giannis' contract that his brother stays on the squad and he gets to pick the coach. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I think that's exactly what the case is. I think that's exactly what the case is. That he's got a big say in who the next coach is. Or they can't make a move without him knowing about it. It's insane. It's insane. And somebody's saying, okay, so what? They make the money. Do you think a coach is just coaching for money? A first-time head coach that had interviewed at 14 different spots that he's saying, you know what? I just want to get some money. That's what that's all I want is money. And that's one of the dumber statements that I've seen. Come on, people. The man wanted to be a head coach in the National Basketball Association, and he got fired after 43 games and winning 30 of them. I mean, what are we doing? But back to Doc, it's come out that Doc basically was giving advice to Adrian Griffin during the whole in-season tournament. He's helping out the first-time head coach. He's helping him out, giving him advice, what to do. And now it turns out that the Bucks are going to hire Doc. I'm like, if that's not the definition of sabotage, I don't know what is. Doc Rivers out here getting this man fired, giving him bad advice. So it's ugly. It should be ugly. Giannis should take some heat because that's what this is. Adrian Griffin came in trying to set the stage for, look, I'm the boss. I'm in charge. You guys need to do it my way. Giannis didn't like that. He got some other people on his side. Clearly, Adrian Griffin had lost the locker room. Clearly, that had happened. And instead of players taking some accountability and saying, yeah, we're not as good defensively as what we can be, they throw the coach under the bus. General manager decides we got to have a happy superstar. We got to have a happy team. And boom, fired the coach. I just don't know what else you do. I mean, 30-13 and you get fired? Whew. It's brutal. It's brutal. And I understand players wanting to have free movement. I understand that. I understand that players want to have some empowerment. I get that. And make decisions on where they go play basketball. I think all of that is 100% necessary. But when you start letting players dictate who the coach is and who isn't, you're going to find some problems. You're going to find some problems. That's the whole thing. You can't. I love Giannis. I think Giannis is an outstanding basketball player. He's in the top 3 conversation of best basketball player in the world. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He is. But when you start letting him decide who the coach is 43 games into the season, basically the halfway point, because maybe he didn't do it this way, or he's doing it that way, and I don't like what he says to me. And come on, man. You're supposed to be grown adults. You're supposed to be grown adults. I mean, at the sales job, the top salesman, if he doesn't get along with the boss, they just don't fire the boss. They say, you guys got to work it out. Figure it out. And as long as the boss isn't getting in your way, they let it go, because that boss may not be good for you, but he may be good for everybody else. I just think it's Bush League what the Bucks did here. It's absolute garbage. You get rid of a coach, the first-time head coach, who's being successful. I think it's bad. I think it's a bad look. And I think if anybody wants to give Giannis the smoke, he deserves it. He deserves it. So he deserves that. And we can say that the athletes bring in the money. Okay. But you have a coach. You have a coach. Let the man coach. If you don't like it, figure it out. Be grown. Be adults. Now, if you stink, That's something different, you know? And then again, you can't not put any blame on Adrian Griffin because, again, you're a first time head coach. You got a superstar on your team. Find a way to get along with him. Find a way to get along with him. Maybe you got to give a little bit on what you're doing. Maybe you got to do that. Maybe you can't be as rigid. So you can't be as rigid as the coach. Maybe you've got to back off a little bit to find a way to get along with your superstar. To me, it makes sense. So that's just what you got to do. That's just what you got to do. You got to grown adults got to find a way to get along with people. So, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. You know, the rest of the year, what are we going to see from them? Are they going to go on this big winning streak? Or is it going to be a lot of the same? Because if it's a lot of the same, then you fired Adrian Griffin for absolutely no reason. You fired him for absolutely no reason. And everybody will know that you fired him. That why. Then that would be why. So, and somebody's saying, I've never been an athlete in any sport. Huh. I get it. So because I don't agree with what you agree, that means I haven't been an athlete. Got it. I would suggest Google to see whether or not I've been an athlete. I would suggest that. And when you do that, and when you Google, then come back and then tell me what I have and haven't done. But that doesn't even have anything to do with it. That's just somebody in their mother's basement being disrespectful. So it is what it is. We covered Marvel Fanatic earlier, the Adrian Griffin firing. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the man got fired. I know why he got fired, because he didn't get along with Giannis. And I think it's ridiculous. 43 games into the season, you win 30 of those games and you get fired. What are we doing here, people? What are we doing? So I just find it ridiculous. Patrick Cockrell. Yes, sir. You're exactly right. Over here on YouTube, players still have to play the game. Can't blame coaches when players don't execute. Exactly. You can have the best game plan in the world. If the players don't execute it, you can't blame the coaches for that. I know a lot of times they try to say, well, the scheme was too complicated. I'm like, so we have to hire a bunch of idiots? We have to hire a bunch of guys that can't think? No, that's not the case. Come on, man. Sometimes guys just aren't very good. Sometimes guys just aren't very good.